Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, Ice Cream Man number 20, with a really cool, swanky Dr. Seuss-esque variant cover in particular. Ice Cream Man, no surprise, being the pick of the week. This book has just been heating up. The stories have been getting better. They've been getting more innovative and even more eerily imaginative. This book was really great. So, as can be led to by this variant cover, the deduction that the idea of this issue of Ice Cream Man are children's stories. So you have three parodies of popular children's stories, such as Dr. Seuss. Won't spoil the other two, but they're all done in that very authentically Ice Cream Man, unnerving, unsettling, disturbing manner, and it's done with absolute finesse, style, and innovation. I absolutely love it. W. Maxwell Prince, Martin Morazzo, Chris O'Halloran, they've been killing it on Ice Cream Man. This has maintained its place over the last 3 years. It's one of my favorite comic books on shelves. 20 issues in, it has not let up. It's great. Really fun stuff. If you like horror anthologies, if you like comic books that push the boundaries of sequential storytelling, if you like just comics that are going to be absurd, ridiculous, bittersweet, and unnerving, yet all at the same time anchored in humanity, Ice Cream Man is for you. Number 20, my pick of the week. And y'all, I've been looking forward to this Dr. Seuss cover for a long time. This issue did not disappoint. I loved it. But we had a lot of great comic books this week, including some great ones from Image. Let's talk about it. First of all, Firepower number 1. We've already read this, right? This was the free comic book day issue. They were giving this away for free. That's right. But if you wanted better cardstock, better paper quality, more extras towards the back, you can now buy an issue number 1 if you want. So there's that. However, we have Firepower number 2 out this week as well. What a great follow-up to what was already established in the debut graphic novel and the free comic book day / issue number 1. Loved this book. This book is, the weight of this is mostly carried by Chris Samnee. Amazing art. I really like his style. The story by Kirkman is very compelling and engaging as well, and the characters are very relatable. But what makes issue number 2 great is it's just mostly one fantastic kung fu action scene. It's absolutely amazing. The staging of the action, the way it's executed, the way it's displayed across the page through the composition is absolutely masterful. That's what Chris Samnee does. When you add in Matt Wilson's coloring, holy cow, it's amazing. You know, when Chris Samnee was on books like Captain America, Black Widow, Daredevil, that was something that really stood out to me. It's like, this cat knows how to stage an action sequence. And this issue is almost solely that, and it was so awesome. You get a little bit of meat at the end, and you get a great hook at the end, especially if you read the graphic novel, something that's really going to make you want to come back. I think Kirkman and company have a hit on their hands with Firepower, and I'm loving it. If you missed out because of the idea that it starts in a trade paperback, I highly encourage you to just check it out anyway. This book is amazing. It's got great flow of action throughout, great coloring, amazing line work. It's an impeccable comic book. It's great, and it's one of the best action comics I have read in all week for sure. Let's just say that. You know, I don't need to be into the hyperbole or anything like that. But Firepower number 2 is out, and it's pretty dope. Look at this. Coffin Bound is back with its second arc. This is issue number 5, right? Where does it say the issue number? Right down there, it says issue number 5. This is issue number 5 of Coffin Bound. This came out last year, just 4 issues for its first arc. And yeah, I would think that even if you haven't read that, you would be just as lost, as confused as we are going into this. Now, I'm not completely lost or anything. I love this book. I thought it was absolutely amazing. The way I described the first Coffin Bound, which is available in graphic novel now, if you want to pick up volume 1, is it's kind of like a grindhouse version of the Sandman. It's got deep, complex themes, but it's also told in a very, almost at times, exploitative and in-your-face kind of way, if that makes sense. So it's something like on the level of Sandman, but in a grindhouse-type manner. They keep that flow going in issue number 5. It's a new story, some new characters, some familiar faces, but it doesn't necessarily completely carry everything over from the first arc. I mean, it's there, it does, so don't be dissuaded from reading that initial arc if you haven't gotten into it. I love this book. It's challenging. It's written by Dan Waters. The use of language, the use of pacing in this book is so amazing. Danny has incredibly atmospheric, rough, gritty pencils that absolutely fit the tonality of this story. Brad Simpson's coloring has texture. It has an erratic fashion to it that's also just straight up fine art. And then Aditya Bidikar, one of the best letterers in the business, wrapping it all up with some of his best work. Seriously, this is some of the best lettering I've seen Bidikar do, and I could say that about every single thing he does, but in Coffin Bound, it's really, really appropriate. Anyway, issue number 5, I loved it. It's deep, it's dark, it's raw, it's gritty, it's unsettling. Coffin Bound is perfect for me. I love it. Issue number 5 is out this week. The Goddamned, The Virgin Brides, Part 2. This is the second issue of the second story arc of The Goddamned, which is a biblical epic, in-your-face, very uber-violent biblical epic from Jason Aaron and artist R.M. Guerra. I had never really read the first Goddamned book. I read like the first issue and just kind of brushed it aside, but this week I did read the entirety of that. Then I read issue number 1 of this series so I could check out issue number 2. And I'm really liking this book. Like I said, it's set in the very early days of the Bible. The first story deals with Cain, and in this one we're dealing with the virgin brides, children that are now coming of age who can be brought up to these angels so these angels can just have their way with them and produce the Nephilim, the big giants of the Bible that's mentioned in there, right? It is a raw, brutal, violent, offensive take on the biblical stories, and I absolutely love it. Issue number 2 of The Goddamn Virgin Brides was really, really cool. I'm liking this story. We veered away a little bit from Cain and the main story of the original series, which is called Before the Flood, but this is doing the exact same thing in a little bit more of a nuanced type way, in my opinion, but I'm loving this book. If you're not easily offended, and if you like seeing very violent and alternate takes on biblical history and things like that, like, I would definitely recommend that you check this one out. Jason Aaron does a great job building up the story. The art's got a raw grit to it that really captures what Jason Aaron's trying to convey. Everything about this was pretty solid. I liked it a lot. Glad I'm caught up. You'll be hearing me follow that from this point forward. Undiscovered Country, number 7 is here. From Charles Soule, Scott Snyder, GFC Kamenkoli and Company. This starts the second arc of Undiscovered Country, and I really, really like this. I was kind of up and down on the first arc, but by the end of the first arc, I really felt like I get where they're going. I get this Wizard of Oz type Narnia flow that they're doing and building this incredibly weird dystopian sci-fi futuristic fantasy within the United States. You get a little bit more explanation on how that actually developed in issue number 7 here. You get some character work, but all in all, it was just very compelling, and I'm really liking this, and I think it's a great structure for this story, and I'm just really liking how they're taking these classic fantasy journey story tropes and placing them on this like sci-fi fantasy futuristic dystopian version of an America that's locked itself off from the rest of the world, and craziness has ensued inside of it. But I know a lot of people were up and down on this one as well, and they gave up on it, but I'm telling you what, I'm still liking this book. I think it's got a great imagination behind it, and in this issue they explain how the United States separated itself, and that stuff is very interesting, compelling to me, at times similar in a way to East to West setup, just a little bit, but not the same type book at all. Tonally completely different, atmospherically completely different, but I'm liking it. Undiscovered Country, issue number 7, kicking off the second arc, and that's from Image Comics. Let's jump over to DC. Anybody heard anything about this book right here? It's Death Metal, Legends of the Dark Knights. This is a one-shot comic book, $5.99 price tag, but definitely well worth it, especially if you're following the death metal stuff. In this issue, you're going to get to know a little bit more about the true ramifications of the Darkest Night, what that actually means. It's a thing that happened in Death Metal number 2. If you're following Death Metal, this is almost essential reading. You do, in fact, have the origin of the Robin King in here, and it's creepy, and it's dope. You got the Batman, dinosaur, you've got a bunch of short stories dealing with those evil Batmans and telling you their origins. You got a really great scene. Francisco Francavilla doing some stuff. Like I said, though, really cool stuff. This is worth it for the price alone, just because of the Darkest Night story and the Robin King story. Everything else is just dessert. You know what I'm saying? This has already started heating up. It shouldn't be too hard to find out there in the wild. I would strongly discourage people from overpaying for this book, but it is solid. It's a great read, and it's a great auxiliary fill-in type stuff for death metal. It's not going to be essential for death metal, but it really helps elevate the stakes and let you realize a little bit more fully how intense some of the stuff that's been happening in death metal actually is. Plus, Robin King. Come on, y'all. Batman number 96 is here. This is the second part of the Joker War officially. We got artwork by Jorge Jimenez yet again, so the artwork is just absolutely fire in here. But my one fault with this story so far is that the Joker's plot, the idea of what the Joker's doing, is very similar to Bane's plot in the Dark Knight Rises film. Aside from that, I'm loving this take on the Joker. It's been built up brilliantly, and it just absolutely explodes. You get the first appearance of the Clown Hunter in this issue, so if you're hunting out that stuff, definitely don't want to miss this one. But it was another fun, action-packed, explosive issue of Batman with some really dynamic and interesting artwork. Jorge Jimenez, oh my goodness. If no one else ever did the Joker but Jorge Jimenez, I would probably be pretty excited about that. But I'm really liking what James Tynion's building up with this story, what he's doing. This was originally intended to be like the ultimate showdown final battle between the Joker and Batman, and now the Joker has unlocked all of Batman's money and technology and all this kind of stuff, and it's just going haywire. But even though the stakes have been raised, it still has this gut punch of tragedy and humanity in there as well, with Batman kind of questioning his own sanity and still dealing with the aftermath of the death of Alfred and the loss of his company and his fortune and the Catwoman betrayal. All that stuff gets all brought back up into here. Batman 96, I'm loving it. Joker War, pretty fire so far. Batman The Adventures Continue, issue number 3. This is the in-print edition of a digital-first comic book that continues the Batman animated series universe. We've had Deathstroke, we've had Red Hood, and this is a really cool, exciting issue. It kind of ties up the initial Deathstroke issue, sets up some of the Jason Todd stuff, and it ties it all back into what's already come in the previous 2 issues. I'm really liking this one. You got Paul Dini, Alan Burnett, 2 writers from the animated series. They're writing this, so it's still got to have that same feel, the same voices for the characters. The artwork by Ty Templeton, he's a veteran when it comes to this style of artwork. He did a lot of the artwork in the original Batman Adventures comic book. This really cool, fun stuff. If you're a fan of Batman the Animated Series and you're missing this, you're missing out on a lot. This is continuing it and introducing new characters and concepts such as Red Hood, Deathstroke, and more. Batman The Adventures Continue, number 3, out this week. DCeased, Dead Planet, issue number 2. So, after DCeased, a few heroes managed to leave Earth, and they started their own place. They're doing their own, trying to build their own society, do their own thing. Then all of a sudden, 5 years later, they get an SOS coming from Earth. So they decide to go back. And of course, that's probably not a good idea, right? Anyway, this is great. It goes beyond just typical Marvel Zombies type silliness, and it actually gets tragic. It has gut-punching, emotional, resonating things in it. Really great. Every single issue of DCeased just makes me just like, ugh, at least once, sometimes twice, sometimes 4 or 5 times. Tom Taylor's doing a great job taking these characters, making them feel familiar, putting them in an unfamiliar situation, albeit though sometimes still familiar, because zombie stories are a dime a dozen. But right now, we got some really good ones pumping out in the comic shops, and DCeased is one of them. Dead Planet was absolutely great. I love seeing the exploration of Damian Wayne as Batman, Jonathan Kent as Superman. I like seeing the legacy of these superheroes get to go forward just a little bit, but still telling a great story that really resonates inside. And if you're like me and you love superhero comics and you love these characters, I think that adds to that effect, to that impact of the craziness that happens. Most people agree Tom Taylor's killing it on DCeased. I agree with them. Justice League number 50 is here. Why am I still reading this book? This is the wrap-up of the Cy Spurrier arc, and it's just forgettable and whatever. Not interesting at all. Some of the characterizations are just so way off. At least one of them makes sense, because he reveals something in this issue. But it's exercise. It's got a cardstock cover. It's $5.99, and to me, not worth it whatsoever. I cannot wait till Josh Williamson comes in, does his Doom Metal tie-in. I think that's in like 2 issues. Maybe we got one more filler type issue or whatever. But that's basically been the problem with Justice League since Scott Snyder's left. It's just been a bunch of fill-in stories. Stories that don't really matter. They don't really have a place. They don't have any stakes. They don't have the weight, the gravitas behind it. And that's definitely something that's been a problem with Justice League. Justice League should be the biggest thing. I don't know. And it was. With Scott Snyder, I loved it. But it all erupted into death metal. But because of the timing of death metal and his end of this Justice League run, it wasn't a fluid transition. So these stories just feel like they have no weight, like they don't matter, and they're not interesting to me. Cy Spurrier's killing it on other books right now, like his recent run on The Dreaming and Alienated, one of the best books of the year. Lopresti's artwork is okay, but the story's just boring. I feel like I've read this probably too many times in superhero comics. Anyway, Justice League number 50 is here. I'm excited for Josh Williamson to come in and do the Doom Metal thing, and then after that, get a new direction, new creative team, a post-death metal Justice League. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I hope we get some big-name talent on there. The Dreaming. Waking Hours number 1. Start of a new Dreaming series. This one's written by G. Willow Wilson with artwork by Nick Robles and coloring by Matt Lopez, I believe. You know, I am totally all just ginched up into the Sandman right now because I'm listening to the Audible presentation of the Sandman starring James McAvoy and narrated by Neil Gaiman, and it's amazing. We talked about it on Rockin' Robbie Live a little bit. It's absolutely amazing. Definitely worth your time to check out. So I originally read The Dreaming at the end of the shutdown when DC was coming back. One of their first weeks, they had the final issue of The Dreaming. And Cy Spurrier did a great job of taking the world of the Sandman and bringing it forward a little bit, doing something different and unique, but still familiar and rooted in what Gaiman had built and done. That's what Wilson does with this. She really respects what's come before as far as Gaiman, Spurrier, and all the other people that have gotten to play around in the Dreaming world and doing something really cool and interesting with it. We get introduced to a new character, Ruin. He's a nightmare. He's trying to escape the Dreaming. The way he has to escape the Dreaming is through the dreams of a mortal, and then that just causes all kinds of craziness and problems, and you got some really great Shakespearean type stuff in here, and I loved it. If you're a fan of Sandman, if you were a fan of the previous Dreaming series, you definitely owe it to yourself to pick this one up and check it out. I think G. Willow Wilson did an excellent job. The artwork is amazing, highly detailed, beautiful, luscious coloring. It's very imaginative. It's pretty much damn near glorious. I absolutely love this book. The Dreaming, Waking Hours is out from DC this week. And also we have Strange Adventures number 4. To me, probably one of the bestest, most clear and concise issues of this series yet. Tom King does a great job when he's able to take a character that's maybe not as well known as someone like Batman or Nightwing, and he's able to do a short form story dealing with what he wants to do. And the idea of taking Adam Strange and making him, or throwing it out there where you have some people that think he's a war hero, some people that think he's a war criminal, and now we've got Mr. Terrific investigating it, and now his investigation's starting to get impeded, the story's starting to heat up, the personalities are starting to flare, and I'm loving it. Mitch Gerrard's Doc Shaner, 2 different artists with 2 completely different styles, but they merge into a very fluid and cohesive artistic experience in every single issue of Strange Adventures, and I cannot applaud that enough. This is Tom King at his top form. This is Gerrards and Shaner doing what they do pretty much every time. They put pen to pencil, pencil to page, pen to pencil. Maybe they do. Maybe they got an interesting technique we've never seen before. You got Shaner's pen, Gerrard's pencil, and they hit it all together. I don't know. Anyway, I absolutely love this book. The dichotomy of the story, of the different ways you could view in perspective a war hero and their actions in their past, and to actually have that reflected in the artwork, but still feel very cohesive and unified. That's hats off, Eisner level type stuff for me. All right, let's move over to Marvel and talk about Empyre. Empyre yet again. Issue number 4. This is now kind of weekly. My favorite thing about Empyre is that it is weekly, because that means it's going to be over pretty quickly. Because I'm not digging this series whatsoever. I really did like the first issue. It made the top 10 that week. How much of a fool I was. Almost every first issue of every event is good in some ways. Just the setup and seeing all the characters together is like some kind of a pleasing thing to fanboys and fangirls alike. I don't know. But issue 2, 3, and 4 have just been duds for me. This book is not exciting. This issue has some interesting things. You'll probably be hearing about it in the media. There's some stuff. And if you're interested in the Immortal She-Hulk stuff coming up, it definitely has its seedlings here in Empyre number 4. But ultimately, I'm just not liking this. I'm a big Avengers and Fantastic Four fan. Fantastic Four especially. And I really like the history of everything. I like the Kree, Skrull, Katati. It seems like it should be an interesting, fun, high-stakes event, but it just comes across as a placeholder event, comes across as meaningless, not as threatening as it should be, not as impactful as it should be. And I'm just not digging it. It's got fine artwork. It's got decent writing. I mean, it's okay, but it's just not doing anything for me. In an event like this, every issue needs to be like, what the F just happened? Right now, and I know it's just 2 issues in, but I'm getting that from Death Metal. I'm not getting that from Empyre. Empyre to me is dull, it's boring, it's lackluster, and it's severely lacking in the excitement level. However, these show variants are great, and now there's the Mr. Fantastic, so I'm suckered in. I'm going to finish it out. I'm going to read it so you don't have to. On that last monthly live stream that we did on the Everything Comics channel, Jim Mint said that it was like the angry video game nerd, but like with comic books. And that's how I feel when I'm reading Empyre. Like, it pisses me off. It really does. But then I see this cover, and it's well worth it. It's well worth it. Let's talk about some Empyre tie-ins. Celestial Messiah, first of all. Lords of Empyre, Celestial Messiah. I was actually looking forward to this one, because it's written by Alex Packnadel, friend of the show. He's been on the show. You should check out the episode in which we talked with Alex for a little bit over an hour. It's a great episode. He's a great guy. I love his work on other titles like Friendo, Kino, Arcadia, Turncoat. Great stuff. And this was actually a very enjoyable issue. This one's going to focus on, what's his name, Koi or whatever? I don't know. The Celestial Messiah. This is Mantis and Swordsman's kid, right? This is from, like, Avengers, Defenders, Celestial Madonna type stuff. It's from, and there's a little bit of Fantastic Four in there. Steve Eaglehart's shit, right, basically. So this is a one-shot focusing in on the character of, God, what's his name? Is it Koi? What is his name? This is going to bother me so freaking much. Yeah, it's Koi. I already knew it. It's Koi. Ha. Why did I doubt myself? Anyway, back to this book. This was a really well-done issue. The script was great. I'm not just saying that because I like Alex Packnadel as a person and as a creator, but this was actually really good. It was interesting. It got into the character. It told me a little bit about the backstory. It let me know a little, like there were emotional stakes that are present here during Empyre. That's something that this book isn't doing, that this book did. Maybe Alex Packnadel should have done the whole damn event. But this is a great exploration on this character, his legacy in the Marvel Universe. You got some Mantis stuff. I would say to read this before you read this, because I read this first, and that was probably a mistake. Not too much a mistake, but you do get some Mantis action in here. It's basically Mantis and Swordsman, who are basically the angel and the demon on Koi's shoulders, right? Koi's leading this Katati revolution and an attack on humanity, on flesh beings. And that's interesting. It should be higher stakes, right? But in here, you get the emotional stakes, and that's something that Alex Packnadel does so well. The use of language, the structure of the story, fantastic. He's one of the White Noise crew, just like Dan Waters, who did Coffin Bound, so it's nice to have 2 books from White Noise alumni. That's super, super cool. But Lords of Empyre, Celestial Messiah, I'll be honest with you, if you're a fan of Alex Packnadel, I think it's worth picking up just to see the exploration, just see the writing. And it's got pretty decent artwork, too, by Alex Lenz and Matt Yackey. But it's not going to entice you to want to read more Empyre stuff. But it's a well-written comic book about a lesser-known comic book character. But honestly, if you're not following Empyre, it's probably not worth checking out. But I would encourage you to check it out just because it's Alex Packnadel. And I think it's pretty good. Empyre Handbook. So this is literally just a handbook. It's got a bunch of text. If you don't know who the Katati are, if you don't know who Captain Glory is, if you don't know what Carol Danvers has been up to, or the Fantastic Four, or anything like that, there you go. If there's a lot of stuff confusing you about Empyre, just buy this book. It's like, what, $4.99? $4.99, lots of text, take you a long time to read it, let you know what's going on with every major character involved in Empyre. That's pretty much what that is. Empyre X-Men issue number 2. I would definitely encourage you to pick this book up if you're reading the X-Men books, even if you don't give a hell about what's going on in Empyre. This is just a great, fantastic, my bad. This is just a great X-Men story. Really liking this one. Now we get Gary Duggan, Benjamin Percy, Leah Williams, the other members of the X-writing team coming in, just telling us a really fun, cool story. Plants versus zombies versus mutants. Really great stuff. It's got a great sense of humor. It's got a lot of action in it. You get spotlights on Angel and Magic and other characters. And I'm just having a ball with this. Some really clever things involving Black Tom and his abilities. So I'm liking it. I think if you're liking what Hickman and company are doing on the X books, definitely check this out. Even if you could give two shits about Empyre, you should read that. I think so. Fantastic Four number 22 is here, promising us the reunion of the new Fantastic Four. You know, Wolverine, Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, and Hulk. And it's pretty exciting, and it's cool to see all kinds of throwback to that that Walt Simonson, Art Adams story. We recently covered it on a Rockin' Robbie Live in Marvel in the 90s. This issue is pretty decent. It's okay. You know, I'm ready for a new direction and maybe even a new creator on Fantastic Four. This is my favorite team, so I'll take what I can get. I'm just glad it's back. I had to go, like 2 or 3 years without even having a Fantastic Four book, and that kind of sucked for me. But to be honest with you, I'd rather have Chip Zdarsky on this book, and also it's suffering because it's tied into Empyre, which is a very lackluster event that I can really not bring myself to care too much about. There are certain things, certain characters, I should say, Skrull characters from the Fantastic Four's past, that they could bring in that would make me actually care a little bit more. But they just haven't done that. As far as the promise of the new Fantastic Four, you do get the new Fantastic Four in here. But it's not all that it seems, and I think it's kind of a cheap way out. Anyway, that's what I think about that book. Fantastic Four is my shit. Y'all know that. We need to start something. We need Zdarsky. Chip Zdarsky on Fantastic Four. Giant Size X-Men is here, the Fantomex one-shot. So I was really looking forward to this one. Written by Jonathan Hickman with artwork by Rod Reese. I was really looking forward to this one because I was like, this is going to explain what's going on with the whole Fantomex gave his body over to Xavier to resurrect him, but is Fantomex still around? What's going on, right? No, it does not answer any of those questions. Instead, it gives us a really great exploration on some unrevealed motivations for Fantomex and his character and his connection to the world and his connection to other beings in the world. And I even like the major amount of respect that the Grant Morrison's new X-Men run gets in this. So I liked this book. I thought it was great. It was a great way to connect some of Hickman's ideas in with the Morrison ideas and then set it on a path forward into some really exciting stuff going on in Krakoa as far as a comic book fan reading it, right? It doesn't answer any of those Charles Fantomex body swap questions whatsoever. I guess at this point it's just resurrection protocols. What? We made a new Xavier and Fantomex was good. I don't know. But, like I said, the way it connects Hickman's ideas to Morrison ideas and then sets it up into the present day and has a new story that's about to go off, really cool. And you start seeing an interconnectedness between these Giant Size X-Men one-shots, leading into the next one, which is Storm. Like the art, like the story, but if you haven't been super familiar with Fantomex, maybe it's a great way to kind of get caught up a little bit on his origins and where he comes from, but it may be a bit confusing. But I did like it. Giant Size X-Men number 1, Fantomex. Guardians of the Galaxy. The book that, as I'm reading it, I go, this is a brilliant book. One of Marvel's best, most imaginative, and innovative comics on shelves right now. But when I'm not reading it, I forget about it. That's kind of a problem for me. Maybe it's because it's dealing with characters that I don't really personally have too much attachment to. Moondragon, for instance. I really never cared too much about the character Moondragon. This issue, while I was reading it, made me care. So now we have this idea that there are 2 different Moondragons, one from Parallel Universe and then the one that we grew up reading in books like Infinity War and Infinity Watch and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's got some really beautiful artwork and great layouts by Juan Cabal. The artwork has been exceptional. The story is great, and it's so thrilling as I'm reading it, but it's not memorable. Maybe that's because of I don't really have a personal attachment to many of these characters. That could be it. But I'm hearing this from other people. Other people that really do like the Guardians, that really do like this cosmic Marvel stuff. that when they're not actually reading the book, they kind of forget about it. So that means that something's missing. And it's kind of sad, because otherwise Guardians of the Galaxy would be a must-read title, because it's got amazing layouts and panel design. It's got really in-depth looks at the characters involved and really cool, crazy cosmic concepts from Al Ewing. But it's missing something. What is it? I can't put my finger on it. If you know, let me know in the comments down below. Ant-Man, number 4. That's right. Starting this week, those Marvel books that they decided were going to go digital only and conclude the miniseries digitally, Ghost Spider, Ant-Man, Black Cat Strikes, others, right? Avengers of the Wasteland, they start coming out this week. So this week we get Ant-Man number 4. We get Avengers of the Wasteland number 4, I think. I think the final issue of the Spider-Man Black Cat Strikes Again or whatever, it's tied into the video game, and maybe there's another one that I'm just not remembering, but they are hitting print. They are seeing it, so that means if you're angry about something, don't just bitch about it. Just let them know. Be like, hey, Marvel, not cool. I want my Ant-Man. Out of all of them, the one that I like the most is Ant-Man. Hawkeye's yet to come back, but Freefall will be coming back, and I'm excited for that. But Zeb Wells, Dylan Burnett, doing a great job with Ant-Man. I already covered this one back in May when it was released digitally, but I gave it a pretty fair review, and I'm liking it. It's a silly, kooky Ant-Man story, but I don't expect much more than silly and kooky from an Ant-Man story. This is the penultimate issue. I'm excited to see how it wraps up. I could already find out because it's done digitally. Did I read the last issue? I think I skipped it. Don't know. Let's look at some of the other publishers, like IDW. IDW has a lot of books out this week. I only read one. Transformers, My Little Pony, Friendship in Disguise. Y'all laugh all you want. I liked this book. I thought this book was pretty freaking good. Now, granted, me and my ex, we watched a little bit of My Little Pony for a while, right? And yeah, for the most part, I was like reading or something, but I kind of got engaged into the story, into the characters. So at least I know a little bit about the My Little Pony universe. Now, I never made it past season 1. I'm not Brooks Gibbs or nothing like that. Brooks, by the way, the Micro Mutant Mario Master Machine, is big into My Little Pony, but he ain't a brony. Anyway, not that there's anything wrong with that. Maybe there is. Transformers, My Little Pony. It's exactly what you think. It's the Transformers, characters we know and love from our childhood, brought into this newer version of My Little Pony's universe. And it's fun. I had a lot of fun with it. Seeing Optimus Prime and Bumblebee interact with Twilight Sparkle. I mean, it sounds silly. I mean, it is silly. It's a silly book, but I had a lot of fun with it. I really, really friggin' did. I'm not even kidding. It's funny. This book is funny. It's cute. It's charming. It does exactly, I think, what it set out to do and what it should do. And I had a lot of damn fun with it. I really, really did. If you're looking for something kooky, silly, doesn't gonna be, you know, the book ain't gonna change your life. Maybe it will. Maybe you'll read this book and you'll be like, I've been really hard on My Little Pony. And then all of a sudden you'll become a My Little Pony fan. Maybe you will. Maybe that will help your life become a little bit more positive and filled with friendship and success. I hope that happens to you. Let's jump over to Vault. Vampire the Masquerade, Winter's Teeth. So this is the start of a new licensed property from Vault. So Vampire the Masquerade is an RPG. I think it's a live action RPG too. I think people do both. I don't know. I don't do that kind of stuff really. But I like vampires and I like Vault. So I decided I'd check it out. You got a story in here by Tim Seeley and you got a story by Teenie Howard. And both stories I really liked. I am not familiar with the lore of Vampire the Masquerade. I feel like they picked a lot of the lore out. I have no idea though. So if anybody is a big fan of the RPG, of the game, let me know how the comic book, you know, how, does it fulfill that, does it scratch that itch? Does it fulfill that purpose? Because otherwise, I just think it's a really great piece of vampire fiction. They got their own lore. They're in Minnesota. They're at the Twin Cities. They've got, like, they're called, what are they called? The Kindred or something like that. The terminology, it's all new to me, but it's interesting and I like it. And it's kind of like a less romanticized Anne Rice version of it. I don't know, but I like the hierarchical system and all that kind of stuff. I had a lot of fun with this. It's 2 different stories, which I thought was really neat as well. And if you are a fan of the game, it's got like a compatible role-playing supplement in the back. So that seems pretty neat. But y'all, I really like this book. And that cover is dope as hell. You got a few covers for this. You got this one as well. And then we've got this one by David Mack. This almost made the cover of the week, because you know I'm a big David Mack fan, but this is the cover of the week. The foil one, oh my goodness. A foil Vault comic book by David Mack. I loved it. And news for you, there was a printer mistake. This was supposed to be $9.99, but they printed it wrong and said $3.99. And Vault said, you know what? Our mistake, book's $3.99. What? Exactly. Find this if you can. I love this book. I thought it was great. If you're a fan of the game, I think you should check it out. If you're just a fan of vampire sci-fi horror fiction, I think you should check it out. I really did like this book. I wasn't expecting too much out of it, and I was kind of impressed. Not just kind of impressed. I was incredibly impressed. The artwork was great. You got artwork by Devmalia Promenick and Nathan Gooden. Absolutely loved it. All tales were colored by Addison Duke, but this book did it for me. Had really cool, crazy, horrific and sci-fi concepts. A great hierarchy for the vampires. Cool, like just the way it's all set up. You know, just the language used, like meaning like how they describe each other, their different layers or whatever. I'm sure that people that are into this game are like Robbie's just doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about. But that's fine. But that's the cover of the week right there. That's beautiful. Also from Vault this week, we have Finger Guns #4. So we had Justin Richards, writer of this book, on the show recently. And before that show, me and Brian had the chance and luxury to read issue #4. And we kept telling y'all, along with Justin, y'all wait till you get to issue #4. And I know Bueller's been saying the same thing on Comics with Bueller. So here it is. If you've been liking Finger Guns, you're going to love this issue. And when you get to the end, your jaw's going to drop. It's going to hit the floor. But don't worry, we'll pick it up because we got one more. I'm excited to see how this book concludes. This book has been ramped up on the emotional level, on the action level, on the concept level. And it ends with a bang. I can't wait to start talking to people about it because the only people I've been able to talk to about the ending of this book has been Bueller, Brian, and Justin Richards, the writer of the damn book. But I'm loving it. Val Halverson, Rebecca Nalty, Taylor Esposito rounds out that team. Absolutely great stuff. If you haven't checked out the live show we did with Justin Richards, I highly encourage you to do so. Finger Guns is a great book. It's an emotional book. It's about being a kid, growing up, not really feeling like you fit in, and then finding some form of connection, and then having that connection be in danger. And that's what issue 4 to me is about. It's about the frantic race to try to fix and repair that connection. And wow. Finger Guns keeps getting better each issue. This is one of the best books of the year. Finger Guns. Also from Vault, we have Heathen #12, and I wasn't prepared for it. This is the final issue of Heathen. I'm going to have to sit down and read them all together. I didn't realize Heathen was ending at issue #12. With Heathen ending at issue #12, why didn't we just let Altariki do all the art? I don't care how long it would have taken me. I would have loved to have seen her artwork on these last few issues. That being said, Woods does a great job. The story does a great job of wrapping it up. Man, it felt really quick. It felt like a story that took a minute to build up, wrapped up real quick. I'm sure this was originally maybe intended for 12 issues. I don't know the backstory. I would like to know a little bit more about what went on behind the scenes with the delays and why it's ending at 12. Was it intended to end at 12? Was it meant to go a little bit further? I don't know. It feels like a very abrupt ending. It's the ending the story deserves, but it just didn't feel like we got there organically. But then again, it's only 12 issues. Maybe I need to sit down and read them all again. And that's something I plan on doing very soon. But Heathen is here with issue #12, and I'm sad to say it is the final issue. Moneyshot is here with issue #7. Shows no signs of slowing down. This is a great, fun, satirical, ridiculously goofy comic book. It's a comic book about people making porn, but it's not a pornographic comic book, but it's got some shock and awe in it, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. We have the President in the United States of America being introduced. The basic premise of Moneyshot is this. These scientists want to explore alien worlds. We know alien life exists because the aliens came to us, invited us to join their alien collective, federation or whatever you want to call it, if you want to use Star Trek terms. And they just thought that Earth was too much of dipshits to actually do it, so they just kind of left them alone. So now nobody cares about science. They kind of ridicule it. They, whatever. And the only way to fund this exploration is through pornography. That sounds very appropriate for our society. But anyway, I like the explorations. I like the characters. It's funny. It's crude. It's rude at times. But it also has a heart to it that I really, really like. Moneyshot #7 from Vault Comics. From AWA Upshot, we have Bad Mother. First issue of a new series from from AWA. It's called Bad Mother. It's written by Krista Faust with artwork by Mike Diodato Jr. It's okay. I thought it was okay. pretty decent. The problem is, Deodato is doing 2 books at the same time, so he's doing the Resistance and this, and I felt like the Resistance issue 1 was really solid artistically, and then it started feeling rushed and sloppy. Maybe it's because he was also doing Bad Mother. I don't know what his schedule was, but the artwork still feels rushed, it feels sloppy. It doesn't feel as refined as his later work at Marvel was. His work at Marvel over the last like 5 to 10 years has been amazing. I felt like he leveled up, and now I feel like he's leveled back down, like someone like, you know, broke his save card and he went back to the original days. I don't know. The story's intriguing enough. It's about a suburban mom. She's going to have to throw down after her daughter gets kidnapped. She's going to have to throw down and just, you know, kill some people, shoot some people up. And that's okay. And that's interesting. But it wasn't different enough. And the artwork wasn't appealing enough to really get me solidly invested into the story. AWA Upshot's been doing some really good stuff. But for me, Bad Mother #1 was just okay. But it wasn't bad. But it was just okay. That's how I feel about it. From Dark Horse, we have a comic book. We have Alien, the original screenplay, issue #1. So this is a mini-series that's going to be based on Dan O'Banion's original Alien screenplay. It's going to be very different, yet still similar to what we know and love from the Ridley Scott Alien film. And I really liked it. I had a different design, different approach to it, but still the same type idea. There's a computer receives a signal. It wakes up a crew on its way to Earth, and then they go to investigate it. Now all hell's going to break loose. But I really liked it. If you're a huge, hardcore fan of Alien, and you're interested to see what the original script's vision was more like, definitely check it out. I had fun with it. Artwork could be a little bit better. At times it felt a bit stiff, but it got the job done. And just like the Alien 3 original screenplay by William Gibson, I think, this is a really interesting alternate take to another universe's version of Alien, right? From Boom Studios, we have King of Nowhere, #4, the penultimate issue. W. Maxwell Prince, the writer of Ice Cream Man Pick of the Week, Tyler Jenkins and Hillary Jenkins on the artwork. I'm liking King of Nowhere. This is the penultimate issue, so it's the big explainy issue. This explains exactly what is going on. And it makes sense, but it still has the nuance and the eccentric quirkiness of a Prince comic book. Not Prince the singer, but Prince the writer. W. Maxwell Prince. Anyway, King of Nowhere #4, pretty cool. If you really like 1, 2, and 3, you're either going to love issue #4 or you're not going to like it. Maybe you wanted it to be a little... Maybe the explanation's too terrestrial, but I think it's just fine. And I liked it, and I liked it a lot, so I'm excited to see what they do with the final issue. Tyler Jenkins' artwork's not going to be for everybody, but I think it fits the purpose of the story, and I'm liking it. King of Nowhere #4 is out this week from Boom. Also from Boom, Ghosted in L.A. #11. Speaking of penultimate issues, and another explainy issue. It's almost like the second to last issue, you got to explain everything before you wrap it all up. In Ghosted in L.A. #11, we find out exactly why the Rycroft Manor captures these ghosts and holds them in, and what the history is and what's going on. It all gets explained, and at the same time, while it's all getting explained, the story ramps itself up and gets ready for its very final blast. And I'm having fun with this. Sina Grace, Siobhan Keenan, Kathy Lee have made one of my favorite books of the year. I've absolutely loved Ghost in L.A. It's got a touch of nuance. It's a human story, even though it's mostly dealing with ghosts. It's dealing with loss, regret, hopefulness, and optimism, and it's doing it in a very cool, sleek, modern way, and a great ghost story. And I think if you are a fan of Buffy, this book is nothing like Buffy. But if you like that tonality of what was going on in Buffy and Angel at that time, a lot of it reminds me of Angel, too. Maybe it's the whole hotel thing. But Ghost in L.A. is great, and I love this book. In issue #11, I'm going to be sad to see it go, but I hope it ends very successfully. Jim Henson's The Storyteller Ghost, issue #4. I talked about this last time. Every time they do one of these Storyteller books, it starts off really good, and even though the artistic level, the art, maintains a very high quality all the way through, the stories kind of become less and less interesting as they go. That's kind of what happened here a little bit. Not that the story's not interesting. It's a clever, cool story, but it's not super original. Artwork, though, is fire. But this is the final issue, and I'm liking it. This is a great way to explore new artists in the medium and see what they can do. And I really love the artwork in here. The artwork is by Veer. The whole thing is by Veer. Love the layouts, the composition, the artwork. There's some really, really strong scenes, some great moments. Look at that panel right there. Bob does a panel of the week. Can I say that one? Can I say that? My panel of the week's probably actually involving the Robin King. Rick and Morty presents Bird Person. This is a one-shot. They do these one-shots that elaborate a little bit more about auxiliary characters from Rick and Morty. This one was okay. It was kind of a quick read, but it didn't really capture me or have me engaged throughout. But it does tell a little bit about Rick and Bird Person's history, so if you're a big Rick and Morty fan, you want to know more about that, check it out. From Aftershock Comics, we have Disaster Inc. This is issue number 2. It's been a long time since I read issue number 1. That came out, what, March? But it fell right back along lines. It's a great idea, great story. So, what is it? Fukushima, right? The meltdown after the earthquake. So now it's like a banned area. It's irradiated. People don't go there. So Disaster Inc. is this company that takes naive people on tours to these dangerous areas, including this one. And is there something supernatural going on, or is there not? It's hard to tell because the dude's tripping drugs or whatever. Tripping drugs. I sound like such an old man. This man was tripping drugs. Anyway, Disaster Inc. number 2 was really solid. I thought it actually had a little bit more excitement level than issue number 1. And even though it had been so long since issue number 1, and I didn't reread it anytime recently, I flew right back into it and enjoyed the story, enjoyed the characters, and absolutely was plugged right back into the flow of it. Disaster Inc. number 2 improved on issue number 1, and I liked it a lot. So that's what I read, and that's what I thought about it. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please do like, share, subscribe, click the notification bell, and join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcast blogs, advanced written reviews, and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.